the Charleston area. Our main classes that people kind of know of us local are our boot camp classes out at Smith Park. If you see us out there, that's us. We also do small group training, personal training, and I'm also a nutrition counselor, so we do some nutrition programming. We try to work it in there. I try to work it in there in a fun way for people already involved in fitness through challenges. We'll do some challenges throughout the year, and just through weekly tips, consultations, things like that, just to kind of help people bring it into their lifestyle in fun ways, right? We like to reward for it in our nutrition challenges. Makes it kind of fun. So I'm very excited to bring these workshops to everybody, and like I said, this is our second workshop in the series, and it is my favorite topic. Before we begin, I want to ask all of you, if anybody's open to sharing, what made you come tonight?
My wife.
Besides me, besides me, like going to boot camp, you're coming, right?
My mom.
Your mom. Okay, yeah, that's good. See? Anybody?
Watch the movie Fed Up,
Has anybody watched the documentary Fed Up?
or the documentary.
Yeah. Yeah. If you haven't, I highly recommend it out of all of the documentaries, because some of the documentaries are very extreme, right? And they, you leave thinking, I have to juice for 30 days, and there's all these things you get. Fed Up kind of, it comes down to this, is what a lot of the stuff they talk about. So it was it's a good one. Anybody else? Sugar. Something pulled you inside saying I have to come. Hoping maybe I would say it's okay or something. Good. All right. Good. Well, I like this topic so much because it's something that I never realized I was struggling with until I started learning more about nutrition, and I started connecting little signs that were going on in my body from different elements of feeling sensory pain to random swelling in my knees at one point, to mood swings. And not understanding why, I'd go through this mood swing, and then the next day I'm like apologizing to the person I just lashed out on, because that's not who I am. So it took a long time to do that. And for a while I kind of focused, when I was learning nutrition, you focus it on, as a mom, I was focusing on my family and my kids, and I kind of was like trying to work on it on my side, but I was also focusing on them, what can I do for them, and then hiding in the closet, not doing what I said they should do. Yeah. When you bake cookies with your kids, and then they wake up the next morning and they want to know where the cookies are, and you have to say the dog ate them.
Dad ate them.
Yeah, Dad ate them, you blame them on somewhere else. So something hit me, and it actually hit me when I caught myself one day talking to somebody else about, you can't take care of everybody around you unless you're taking care of yourself. Goes back to the whole airport scenario, right? In case of emergency, what do they tell you to do? You put your face mask on before you go to somebody else, because you cannot give the quality care to them if you're not taking care of yourself first. So if you're here, and you don't have to admit it, because in your head you're here for somebody else, I want you to think about, keep them in your mind, because we want to help them too, but the best way you can help them is by being a good role model yourselves. So I want you to be a little selfish tonight. Okay? It's okay. So, my sugar addiction. My plan up until yesterday, and I changed the slide, was to kind of read a little story from The Sugar Habit, where this woman is going through her aha moment, where she was like, oh my gosh, I have a major issue, and she started to transform her life. Because I started my transformation a little bit before I read that book, but I've reread it several different times, and every time I read it, something else about her story, it's like I'm reading a story of my own life, clicks in my head, and I'm like, oh goodness, that's why. So I wanted to share a little bit about my sugar journey, so to kind of maybe help you feel like you're not alone a little bit on it. So as a kid, I was kind of the athletic, skinny, I hate using that word skinny, but that was me, no issues. I'd run around. I had two brothers that struggled with their weight the entire time. I would, wake up, I could have 3 bagels, and they had to go put on paper bags and shed some weight so they could weigh in for football. And I was not nice about that. I'd eat my 3 bagels and laugh at them. Not kind, but I didn't have a problem. But I also didn't understand, I didn't have cravings for chocolate and things like that, Snicker bars, and I would have friends. We lived where we had a deli right on the corner. We lived in a small little town in New Jersey. There was a deli like right there. So I had the world of Entenmann's and candy all at me, and it wasn't appealing to me until sophomore year in high school, when my athletic world kind of fell apart. I went from this small town being like the all-star athlete to this very competitive high school to being the very small fish in a big pond. And it was, you're 14 years old and the world hits you in the face and you kind of don't know how to deal with that. So I was coming home from school at 3 o'clock to an empty house. Both of my parents worked. And my dad had this cool change thing, where they keep all the quarters and stuff that, when we had to pay tolls, there was no easy pass. Like I said, you're from New Jersey, there's lots of tolls on the roadway. And I would steal that change and my change, and I'd go across to the deli, and I'd buy my little box of Entenmann's. I would eat the whole box, probably twice a week, and I would enjoy it, and I would move on, but nobody knew. I don't think anybody in my family, I don't even think they've heard that story. I'm not sure they knew. I think my dad just knew his quarters were gone and was trying to find out where. And most likely he blamed my brothers and not me, because I was good at hiding the stuff I did. That was the beginning of the start. And I went from, and then, the next year, the one thing that was keeping me going was cross country. Injuries started to happen, and that fell apart. So now I didn't have any world of athletics to go to, and didn't really know where to go to for fitness, because that's what kept me going. So this is where I kind of fed my emotions. The weight started to creep on, and then you go into college, and that freshman 15 became a freshman 30. So in a time of probably 5 years, I probably gained about 30 pounds. The moment hit me when I came home from college sophomore year, freshman year, first semester freshman year. My younger brother, who, as probably mean as I was to him, was like, had the biggest heart, and he kind of was like, whoa. And that like reality kind of smacked me in the face. And I went shopping with my mom because none of my clothes fit, and I cried. I went back to school, and I very quickly lost 15 pounds. But how did I lose it? We were still kind of in that low fat craze, right? So I'd count my 6 pretzels, I'd have my little thing of yogurt, I'd have my salad with vinegar on it. I'd kind of save up for the Friday night party, save all my calories so I could have that one night. And that's, I lost it and I found a way I could maintain. My metabolism was still strong, but I also started to get active again. So I started to fall in love with fitness. So that came about, and I was able to maintain it. Then you come into your 20s and you're establishing real relationships now, right? You're really starting to form, not that you weren't establishing real relationships before, but I'm a grown up now. The little stuff doesn't fly anymore. And I started to become aware, it started to all catch up to me. I started to get twitches in my eye. I was teaching at the time, and I'd drive to work. I'd get my Dunkin' Donuts with cream and sugar and my donut and my muffin on the way to work. That was my breakfast, right? Then I'd have my energy bar, my piece of fruit, and my cup of water. That was my lunch. And then probably on the way home, I'd get some type of frappuccino, and then I'd have the smallest dinner. And that just stuck with me for a long time. And until I started to get the eye twitching, and then I'd start going for job interviews, and I'd look at my dad and go, why am I getting sensory pains up and down my body? At one point, fast forward to after I had kids, I went to the doctor's, swelling around my knees, not really knowing. The doctor was like, I don't, did blood work, nothing was wrong with me. All of these things, and then also getting into the relationship with my husband and starting to form a relationship, and he's like, wow, you have these moments where you're like, crazy woman, like what? And when you're in it, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm right, and that's it. And not like, a normal, like he did something wrong and he deserves the crazy moment, just an irrational crazy moment. And it clicked on me as time started to go by that I would get that sugar crash, and I would have to dig deep for a coffee, for something, anything. The last piece of that was also what registered with this in this book that just very recently was, because I always, to bring up the wine and the beer and things like that, is I would have that moment to where all of a sudden it was just like lashing out or collapsing down, like passing out because you're so tired. The sugar in the alcohol would really affect me, and the little tropical drinks and stuff, cannot have them because you'll get that happiness and then there's that big crash. So there were all these realizations, and it was like that was the last missing piece. And I was like, whoa, that's something's got to maybe switch there. So I shared that kind of, all those little scenarios and the high lows halfway through that process, probably after I had, right after I had my second rider, who's 9 months. He was 9 months at the time. He's 6 now. I started to reach those realizations, and I started working on it. So from that moment to now, so it's been a 6 to 7 year journey of all of those habits. The coffee now, the cream and sugar, is now black coffee. Shopping for all of this stuff, I almost wanted to like twinge, and I tried to some of it take the best of the worst, because I was like, this is going to go back in my house. So what am I going to do? Some of it won't. Some of it will be dumped right out. But it's really been a process. So I encourage you, as we reach some awareness, which we're going to dive right into now, to not be like, oh my gosh, I have so long to go, so far to go, because every phase in my journey created better health. I started to feel better, helped me see clearer on what I needed to do. So the baby steps are okay. It doesn't have to be, I'm a very realistic person. You don't have to walk out of here being like, that's it, no more sugar, I'm cutting it all off. Be real with yourself. And that's part of our sugar challenge we're going to talk about at the end, is about really getting real. And we're going to give you tips about how to find out where you are today with how much sugar you're taking in, and what you need to do to get to the point that's recommended and that works for you. Okay? All right. So let's get right into some fun stuff. Some fun facts, as I like to say. So 150 pounds of sugar consumed per year are consumed per year per person. Now, depending on what you read, this kind of changes. I did read as low as 60 pounds per year, but that 60 pounds per year was written by the Crystal Sugar Company. So I caught myself reading it, and I was like, they were really trying to put a good spin on sugar. What is this? And I looked up at the browser, and I was like, oh, okay, the sugar company. It's like the dairy company telling you not to eat soy, and the soy company not telling you to eat dairy. So, look at your sources. But anywhere from 60 to 150 pounds of sugar consumed per year. This used to be, what's my number? A quarter to a half pound. I'm sorry, it used to be 4 pounds years ago. Over 100 years ago, it was 4 pounds. Even going back to 40, 50 years, it was between 4 pounds and 10 pounds. Now we're all the way up there. And if you look at what has happened between those times, the boom of soda, the sizes of the sodas, the boom of the fast food industry, all of that, the low-fat diets, all the things like that. 35, okay, today, and this will make sense as we go through a little history, 35 cents per pound is today's cost of sugar. It used to be, in colonial America, in today's dollars, $2.40. So, yes, we've gotten more efficient at making this stuff, and we've gotten more industrialized, we can be more efficient, but if it cost that much, it was more of a treat for the wealthy, right? And now it's a different kind of food. It's in everything. 1 teaspoon of sugar is equal to 4 grams of sugar. So when you're reading, and that's gonna make sense, and that's gonna help you leave here, when you're reading different labels, like you've got a juice box and you see 13 grams of sugar, divide that by 4, you've got 4¼ teaspoons. Is that right? 3, thank you. 3¼ teaspoons. You might help me with math today. 3¼ teaspoons of sugar in here, okay? And you'll visually see what that means. 15 calories, so what does that mean for my calorie counters? 15 calories. Every teaspoon of sugar is 15 calories. 10 teaspoons of sugar is the recommended daily allowance. Now, that has just recently changed. It is now 6 teaspoons of sugar for a female, an adult female recommendation, and 9 teaspoons of sugar recommended daily for a male. Now, let's clarify that, added sugar. So, because some of my like savvy people are like, well, if I eat an apple, that's already 10 grams of sugar. Not your apple, your added sugar. So, non-whole foods, everything you see up here, things that are added into something, okay? So, there are no recommendations on how much total sugar intake, which I kind of like, because, I mean, even just last night in my small group, the conversation was going on about the high sugar in bananas and carrots. And I almost started twinging, and I was like, I don't, that's not your problem. You're telling me you ate ice cream last night. We're not talking about bananas and carrots, right? That's not, odds are that's not at the root of your sugar problem, right? It's the ice cream, it's the chocolate, it might be the juice, the soda, all of the added process, the breads, the bagels, the french fries, things like that. So keep that all in mind. So let's, before we go into a little history, we're gonna do a little fun, I already gave this one away, so let's do this. All right, I love talking about Gatorade, and I'm not gonna go into I could do an hour class on Gatorade, but I'm not gonna do it today. Gatorade, how many grams of sugar? So let's go over this. This is, the serving size is 12 fluid ounces. So this is 32 fluid ounces. So 12 fluid ounces is a serving size. They wouldn't let me buy just the 12. I had to buy a big pack, and I didn't want to do that. How many grams of sugar do you think are in 12 ounces of Gatorade?
In 12 ounces or in the bottle?
12 ounces.
32.
32.
Which is
I was gonna
32.
say the same thing.
18.
21. So let's count that out. So 21 divided by 4.
4 times 4, right?
5 and a little over 5
Times 4?
teaspoons.
No, 21 divided by 4. So 21 grams. So every 4 grams is 1 teaspoon.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
So if we did 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and if we just added a little bit for that little, that's how much sugar is in 1 serving. Now, in this bottle is 2.5 servings. So double that and a half. Do you want to drink Gatorade anymore?
You have to if you're having a colonoscopy.
Well, you don't have to, because there are other electrolyte drinks out there. That don't have, well, and there's a couple of things. There's little things like coconut water that have natural electrolytes, great, easy, natural source. I want to say vitamin water does not have, there's other things in here, so let's go beyond the sugar really quick. So we're not gonna talk about and go into the red dye that's in here. So the sugar, the red dye, that's a whole nother topic, and we will touch upon that next month. That is not good, that is toxic for your body. And also, the idea of Gatorade, why they have you drink it, is the electrolytes. And I didn't really get the whole Gatorade thing, I think, mostly until I started doing endurance sports. There's a purpose for it, right? Until a child was sick. There's a purpose for it when your body's off balance and you're dehydrated, truly dehydrated, because your body can't catch up if you're really dehydrated. And I moved to Charleston, and it's flipping hot, and you cannot get enough water in you, right? So there is a purpose. Coconut water is great. I use a natural product from Shackley that's performance, that is electrolyte drink, just what you need. But also, and Kylie, I'm gonna pick on you for a minute. Kylie's got a good story about Gatorade. Gatorade is actually not balanced correctly to hydrate our little athletes. Kylie was doing massages at the tennis center for the professional athletes, and what did they add to their Gatorade because it was off balance?
Yep, so for, the professional women's tennis, when they go out and play a match, they take 2 of the, I would say probably 12-ounce, Gatorades with them. And in the training room, we are to put 2 packets of salt in every Gatorade, for them to have out on the court. So pretty much, like she said, Gatorade is unbalanced already, thus we have to add other salt to it, just so it can hydrate the players,
So,
correctly.
yeah, and if you're not convinced to totally give it up, think about when you're using it, why you're using it. I cringe, and I'll go on this platform next month, about when I see the kids walking off the field with Gatorade when they've done like 30 minutes of like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if they're out there with baseball, they're sitting in the dugout, and I mean, they might run around the base a little bit, and I'm like, do they need that? So just think about it a little bit. Just had somebody email me today, and they're like, don't take away my Nutella, and she was supposed to be here today, I think I scared her. How many grams of sugar do you think is in your, and okay, so Nutella is natural, no artificial ingredients, people are like, it's healthy, right? Better than, sugar is the first ingredient, so I'll just get that out of the way. How many grams of sugar do you think are in a serving, which is 2 tablespoons?
6 grams.
21 grams.
Wait, 2 tablespoons, there's
2 tablespoons.
over 5 tablespoons and of sugar and 2 tablespoons of Nutella.
2 tablespoons of sugar, yes. 2 tablespoons of Nutella.
Over 5 tablespoons of sugar.
Yeah.
Sound
5
right.
teaspoons, crazy, right?
Over 5
Teaspoons,
teaspoons, I'm sorry,
Teaspoons, 2
teaspoons.
tablespoons,
Teaspoons.
5 teaspoons, which is almost equivalent,
Teaspoons,
because
yeah.
3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon.
And the commercials on television for the kids' breakfast make it look so
Yes.
good.
When you watch Giada, you see all the
I actually did a little
time,
comparison, because in Walmart today, the Nutella was right across from Pop-Tarts. I'm not advocating Pop-Tarts, but there's less sugar in Pop-Tarts than there is in Nutella. So think about it. A little scary. I won't measure that out because look, it's right here.
Do they have low sugar Nutella?
I did not see it, but I did not look closely, but if they have low sugar, what do you think they're replacing it with? Fake, artificial, and we'll get to that. So yogurt, what I did with the yogurt is I tried to pick ones that I've talked to people about, because I think people are getting a little smarter about yogurt. And this is a popular one, right? And yogurt's gonna be a little different because we can kind of debate the issue of, specifically this one, where it's not added per se, because it's natural in here. This is not, because it is plain, all natural, non-fat, Greek strained yogurt, it's plain, it's not flavored. So because it's unflavored, there's no added sugar. So when we talk about the 10 teaspoons of sugar, technically this does not fall into the added. So it's a better than choice, but we still should be mindful. How much sugar do you think is in here?
14.
Now you're playing.
6.
8?
7.
No, 7.
7 grams. So let's measure it out. Not too bad, right? And that's why better than, right? And it's not added. So really it's just about 2. Just short of 2. Oops. Here we go. And if we moved on to Yoplait, they've got their you line them up in the refrigerator, that commercial. This one is flavored. So let's see the drastic difference. I kind of gave it away. We've got how many, what's the guess here?
18?
21.
21.
Yeah.
We're gonna put this right here. I didn't even eat all these cups.
You can find it in the 30s too.
Yeah, and some of the, I think even the kid ones are like, they go up higher, it's scary. Hershey Kisses, and I put my bag away. I think I remember
You
it.
can get fooled too. I bought one for my kids that has a character on it,
Yes,
and it had no food dye and 7 grams of sugar. And I couldn't find an organic, fancy named one
yes,
anywhere near that.
yeah. So you have to, you really have to, the point.
So for that, I bought the character.
Yes, you're gonna find yourself, I hope you find yourself taking more time grocery shopping after this. And it'll be a month, that you're gonna go in the store buying new things, but I'm hoping that'll get better until you then use a new store and they don't have your brand. Like at Walmart, we were trying this whole, which might be a workshop if we can master a healthy budget thing, eating healthy on a budget. So I'm trying shopping at Walmart. It's a whole new story to me. So I'm like walking around, like picking up everything. And today was even funnier because I'm trying to find food that I normally don't buy. So our beautiful Hershey Kisses, I have out 9 pieces because 9 pieces is a serving. So it's actually kind of nice to look at 9 pieces as a serving, right? How many grams of sugar do you think?
12?
21. 21 is the
Wow.
popular
Like a magic
tonight.
number with that, there's like
Right?
kind of FDA regulated number.
Right? So, I mean, we could add them, right? Scoop them all up. 21 grams.
My lottery ticket.
So, you know, I have my Nutella and my bread for breakfast. I have some yogurt as a snack. I grab some Gatorade before I work out. I hit my little crash and I need to grab some Hershey Kisses. This can really happen, right? 21 times 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we know where the numbers are coming from easily, right? All right, let's go granola, the healthy granola crunchers, right? But I had granola in my yogurt. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. I purposely bought this one because I fell into this trap for a while, and also to say I have a good, better, best scenario that we'll talk about at the end. I highly advise you not to buy anything with artificial sweeteners in it because it has lower sugar. That's one. So you want to look for natural. If it's going to say sugar, I want it to say sugar, not high fructose corn syrup, not anything processed. I want it to be in the most natural form, right? So I'm getting some more nutrients from it. However, we're going to learn that sugar is sugar is sugar in the body, right? So maybe we're getting some nutrients, but if we're eating too much sugar, it's too much. And this is still, let's see, sugar is the second ingredient, and molasses, which is another form of sugar, is 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th ingredient. So sugar number 1 is in the first 3 ingredients, right? What do we always, that's kind of a rule of thumb, it's in the first 3, we know. It goes from highest to least in amount of what's inside. So how many grams of sugar do you think are in 2/3 of a cup?
16.
36.
Do you have to eat this? Because she's spot on. 15 grams. 15 grams. So let's put it right out there. 15. So that's 4, right? And a little bit more. 1. When you really, why do I like this visual? Because I didn't realize my, I kind of knew my coffee habit was bad, but I wasn't making it at home until the one day I kind of peeked around, and it was usually 5 a.m. when I'm ordering the coffee, so give me the sugar and caffeine. But I kind of peeked the one day, and they had like a shovel. And I saw that shoveling in there, and I was like, wow, that's a problem. Like, that's why my eye's twitching at 3 p.m. and I need more, So it's a really good visual to kind of see, yes, you're consuming that. Okay? Now, here's my little, this has been a standby for me. It has been, we're trying to get off of it in my house, granola bars. It's that whole good, better, best, trying to find that something to satisfy the kids that's sweet. And how many grams of sugar do you think are in 2 bars? So they give us, a serving size is technically 2 bars. So
16.
you're overshooting now, 12. So 12, not so bad, right? We're like, oh yes, it's 12. Still, it all adds up. 1 bar, there's only 6. So if we go 12, there's 3 teaspoons. If I'm like, I'm just gonna eat 1 and then add that with maybe some fruit to help satisfy that sweet flavor, or a protein source next to it, I could go all the way down to 1.5 teaspoons, so I can cut that. So let's just visually, again, it's good to see. 12, we're gonna go 3 teaspoons here. 2, 3. So when you look at that, I'm like, that's what I'm giving my kids. With some oats, little thing to think about. And we're gonna see it more when in a couple slides, what we're gonna do is go through kind of a sample daily day, like how does this all add up? Because we could look at that and one and be like, all right, 3, I might have, 3 more teaspoons of added sugar to go a day, like, where am I gonna get it from? And we're gonna see how quickly that creeps up and what that means. Okay. Oh, I got a little. So the history of sugar, I'm gonna run through this quick so I don't keep you here all night. Thousands of years ago, the domestication of sugar started. The sugar cane plant was born, and it started about 2,000 years ago. It started the manufacturing of the crystal granules of the sugar cane in India. The process was laborious, time-consuming, and hence expensive, like we talked about. You go on 16th century, sugar mills started popping up. As exploration and travel grew in the 17th and 18th century, sugar use started to spread more. So it was this slowly through the centuries, it started to spread everywhere. 19th century, this was where the main boom came in, and this is where candy, jams, use in coffee and tea, and this was really the beginning of processed foods. And it's kind of funny if we think about if we ate the processed foods in the 19th century, not so bad compared to what we have today, right? 20th century, we took it a little further, right? What do we have now? Hyper-fused corn syrup, there's artificial sweeteners, we can make it fast, we can make it cheap, and hence we have more consumption, right? And there is no, I'm not gonna get into the whole history, but the sugar industry has a lot of money, right? So it has a lot of what? Power. Yeah, it's got a lot of power, so we gotta think about that. So, sugar in the body. So really, why is this so bad for me? Sugar is a carbohydrate. Names for it: glucose, fructose, sucrose, lactose. Lactose, we think of it in milk, is how we hear it. Sugar will be burned for energy or converted to fat. So, sugar can be a good thing, right? We need energy. Sugar goes into the, I'm seeing my stone there. The pancreas detects sugar. Okay, it releases the hormone insulin, and insulin helps regulate the sugar. Insulin leads sugar to the liver, the glycogen stores in muscles and fats, so it kind of leads it where it needs to go to kind of do its job. But what happens when there's too much of it? There was this great video that I was trying to figure out. It was just a little too long. I was trying to figure out how to cut it, but it had these little visuals of like the sugar molecules coming in and like the insulin bopping it away, and then all of a sudden like too much came in and it just like stops doing its job, so it's like clumping up with fat cells, just what we want to see. So the body starts to struggle for balance, right? We want to fix it quickly, so how do we fix it quickly? What's the quickest, fastest moving thing that's going to give us energy in our body? Sugar. More sugar. So re-enter insulin, the process repeats itself, resulting in too much sugar gets stored as fat. So if we don't use it, and that's kind of like the quick abridged version of it, right? If we don't use it, it gets stored as fat. Fat is a harder thing to burn for energy. It takes longer to convert to energy.
Is that why the Gatorade gets away with so much sugar? Because they're designing it or trying to make it for
Yes.
when you are burning energy
Yes.
and sweating like crazy, so
Yes.
that sugar should just get burned?
It should just get burned. And technically, it should have 25 to 28 grams of sugar to be optimal for burning. So technically it should have more, but that's where the imbalance kind of comes off too.
So just sitting around drinking Gatorade is not
Right.
what it's really intended for.
Correct.
Which people do.
Oh,
Oh,
totally.
they're happy to say.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
That's
don't
why
drink
so the
coffee,
pros
I
still
drink-
like it, like
Yeah.
the tennis pros you're working with, they still like it, you just gotta add the salt to it to balance out the intake so that it works
And do
properly.
they like it, or does Gatorade sponsor?
Gatorade sponsoring, so they're required to
They've
drink
got
it,
some
so they have to
power,
add it,
yeah,
make
you go to
sense.
marathons and races, and I had this talk actually with Jennifer, and I'm like, I just won't touch it, but I don't run marathons, so I haven't come across the problem. I can run a half marathon and I can get away without needing an electrolyte drink. I'll drink it beforehand, I'll make my own concoction, but I don't need it on the course. Where if you're running a marathon, you do need something, so it's either bring it or take what you get. And Gatorade, big money Here we go, we've got it, right? Sugar really that bad? Okay, sugar's not a food group, right? No nutrients, no protein, no fat, no enzymes. Pulls minerals from the body. So you have a handout after the one with the many names of sugar. The many names of sugar is really just for you to kind of remember when you leave here and you start reading those ingredient labels, and it's got lots more than what we have up here. Sugar stresses the liver, fatty liver disease, example. Increases bad cholesterol. Does not fill you up and leads to more cravings. Artificial sweeteners are known to act the same way. Actually, they are known to send fake signals to the brain, like your body never quite gets that satisfaction, so you end up looking for more. So it's acting as, but not even, I mean, at least sugar might satisfy you for a little bit. Can create an addictive response in the brain. There's a lot of new information out there that directly correlates sugar to drugs because it stimulates the same part of the brain. So if you feel like you have a sugar addiction, like you need a little bit of something, you probably do because it's stimulating that part of your brain. So depends on how strong your addiction is, but there's ways, you know, we gotta work on that. It promotes premature aging. Yep, and we're gonna go to the next slide. And let's read off just quickly. I think we kind of hit enough there, but can weaken eyesight. Interferes, we said, with mineral, interferes with absorption of calcium and magnesium. Causes a rapid, in kids, right? When we all of a sudden the kids get the sugar rush, like there is something to that. I know my kids, if they've had too much, like they'll lay in bed and they're not sleeping. Can cause arthritis. Okay, this is something that hit me quick because arthritis runs in my family. I don't think I know a family member older than, I would even say 45 that does not have some form of arthritis or is complaining about it. And I know my genetic predisposition, like who I'm kind of, like my mom, I look at her and I'm like, okay, I gotta fix that before that happens. And sugar is there, you know. Can increase cholesterol. Contribute to osteoporosis, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, contributes to diabetes, cardiovascular disease, makes our skin aging, the collagen, right, a nice soft skin. That's kind of a nice selfish way to kind of write a vain way to really kind of, you know, keep your skin young, beautiful. Headaches, migraines, right? When you detox from sugar, same thing as caffeine, you start to get the headaches. Depression. Alzheimer's disease. Okay. Does that kind of hit anybody? So why not have artificial sweeteners, right? We could lessen our sugar intake really quick. Well, it's kind of tricky with artificial sweeteners because there's research out there. It's hard to find on who's going to give it to you, who's not going to give it to you. Is it solid research? Is it not? But there is enough that we should pique our awareness. So artificial sweeteners, what are they? Aspartame, sucralose, saccharin, neotame, and that nice fancy name after that. Aspartame, we think of NutraSweet equal. Sucralose was Splenda. Now they sell the big, you know, I remember in the 90s they started selling the big, I used to start baking with Splenda. I was like, 0 calories, this is awesome. And then something instinctually feel wrong about artificial sweeteners? Anybody? Or were you like, yeah, I mean, something, I'm like, how chemically processed it? It feels a little wrong, right? There is, the FDA has, although they say it's safe, right, and they'll give you levels, has had numerous reports of seizures and other problems with ingestion of artificial sweeteners. There's not solid research, so they can't exactly say, and how are we gonna research aside from lab animals, right? Because you're not gonna say, you're consuming this toxic level of aspartame and see what happens. But they have received reports. Reports link, and there's a whole list here, to dizziness, visual impairment. That whole list is also on this sheet here. Headaches, hearing loss, blurred vision, Personality changes, there you go. So you go from dropping the sugar, you add that artificial sweeteners, you're still a personality mess, right? Fatigue, chest pain, eye problems, joint pains, muscle cramps, things like that. Look over that, joint pains, numbness and tingling in the extremities. Become familiar with this list when it comes to artificial sweeteners and sugar, and start to be mindful through the days coming forward, and start to pay a little more attention to your body and see how sensitive and how it is affecting you, because you might find a link there to some things going on. So how do we kick this habit, right? Enough, let's talk, let's get into action. Actually, before we do that, let's go back once. Let's go through, because we want to kick this habit, let's go through that sheet you have that says sample day of sugar intake. So, in toddlers, here's a nice list at the bottom, because this really hit me looking at this, and this forced me, that sample day is like a day in my house when you're rushing around trying to get food into everybody. This is honest and upfront, like this is what one of my children ate all day today. So this kind of hit home, even measuring, as much as when you physically put it down, and measure it, it kind of starts to ring into you. An egg sandwich. So toddlers, go back. If they're eating 12 to 1,400 calories, it's recommended added sugar, 4 teaspoons and 16 grams, equaling 16 grams. 4 to 8 years old, if they're having about 1,600 calories, and this is give or take depending on the child, 3 teaspoons of sugar daily, which will equal 12 grams throughout their day. Preteens, teens, if they're having around 1,800 to 2,000 calories, 5 to 8 teaspoons or 20 to 32 grams. A little higher up there in grams, right? Adults, used to be 10 teaspoons. Now we're at, which is 40 grams. But now, just recently, I believe it was last year, they recommend for women with a normal BMI. So, I've got my issues with BMI. However, it's a measurement, it's a number that we can use, right? If your BMI is between 18 and 25, we're kind of in a safe range. We're above 25, we're not. So when they say normal, 6 teaspoons for women, which is 25 grams. For men, 9 teaspoons, which is 36 grams. So let's go through a day of what is supposed to be an 8-year-old. Putting my fast track day in front of you. An egg sandwich, and then the egg sandwich comes and they're still hungry, Let's slice up some fruit, would have been a better option, but the Rice Krispie cereal came out, right? So the 3 grams of sugar comes from the bun on the sandwich, right? So 3 grams equals, and we'll measure it out at the end, 3/4 of a teaspoon. We go to lunch, we pack in a lunchbox, turkey wrap, right, standard, an apple, we have some pistachios, and then we did make a treat, and this is not like an everyday thing, but we make this, it's natural sweeteners, but added sugar, right? Honey, almond butter, and like a natural protein powder kind of mixed in to make a fudge. Come home, we have an orange, some cheese, and some rice crackers. For dinner, hopefully they ate this, I'm not sure, some meatballs with sauce, a quinoa pasta, and some salad with dressing, right? So we add that all up, total, not taking into account what's added and what's not, what's added sugars, what's not, 51.7 sugar grams, okay? But let's go through and see what's added. What you guys don't have is what I have is highlighted pieces. So if you have a pen, you kind of circle, what do you think here classifies as added sugars?
Rice Krispies.
Rice Krispies,
The
good, but there's no
bun.
sugar in that. The bun, yes, so the bun had the 3 grams of sugar.
The wrap. Fudge
The
treat.
wrap had 1 gram of sugar,
Salad
good. The
dressing.
fudge treat, right, 17.
And the sauce for the meatballs.
The sauce, yep, and the pasta.
Salad dressing.
Salad dressing, correct. Right, so the sauce with the meatballs, 2 grams we have there from the sauce, and then the salad with the dressing. These are kind of estimated, kind of looking around the house, kind of seeing what, kind of trying to guesstimate their serving size. 1 gram, the sugar in the dressing is very low. Actually, there was no sugar in the dressing that was estimating what from the spinach, from the lettuce. Okay, so that is not considered added, so X that. So we've got the sauce, we've got the fudge treat, we've got the wrap from the turkey, we've got the Rice Krispie cereal, which I did have. And then we have the bun from the sandwich. Those equal 27 grams. Now I look down, how many grams of added sugar are they supposed to have? 12. What on there sent it over the edge?
Fudge treat.
The fudge treat. So you're like, so you made him a fudge treat. My kid only has like one cookie. I looked up Oreo cookies just to be prepared for this. Do you give your kid or yourself just one cookie? Right? 2 cookies equals the same. Just 2 small ones, 2 small. So there's correlation, and we can go back to like, you know, was it the Hershey Kisses, or is it a little Nutella and some bread? We can go way over that with this, right?
Well, this is somebody who's also actually trying.
And this is only
Imagine if
drinking
you're not.
water. Yeah, so what if you gave your kid a juice box? Let's add in a juice box. What if you went out to dinner and you were like, you could order the soda tonight? What if, you know, they had field day today. They had ice pops in school. I'm not sure what kind of ice pops they were. Could be fake stuff, could be the real stuff, but there was something in there in addition to all the food dye and all that stuff. Yeah. They had a good day today, so they come out with Starburst. I start twitching with that one. But, you know, there's little things, little ways that it's all added in, where it reminds me that, do they need that fudge treat? They're getting it in other places. So and the same thing for ourselves. We're like, do you need that Hershey Kiss? Because you're going to go out to dinner one night this week, and you're going to deserve a little treat. Deserve, we got to think about that a little bit more, right? When it comes to our health, what do we deserve? So this is, if we were to really quick, 27 grams, if we were to measure